Does missing measure up to searching? I saw this movie a day later than I had originally planned to. I came back from California late Wednesday night, early Thursday morning, and I was going to go see Missing Thursday afternoon. But to be honest, I was so tired from the trip, and that was a hectic trip back, that I decided to postpone it to Friday night. So I went to go see it last night. I'm actually recording this Saturday. I was too tired to record a review when I got back on Friday night after the movie because it was pretty late. And I used the time that I had to think a bit about this movie and how it made me feel. So I'll start off right now by saying that it was an enjoyable movie. I did like it. However, in different ways, it does not measure up to the excellence of the first movie in this series of movies, the one that was called Searching, where it was a father that was looking for his missing daughter. And I thought that one, so I don't like these types of movies in general, like found footage or home video type movies, cam films. These movies are a skosh different from the home video type movies in that it's all taken from the perspective of like a webcam or a phone camera or something like that. So it's a bit different, but at the same time, it sort of falls into that genre of films that I'm not super crazy about. But when I saw Searching, that movie really surprised me because it was so well done. It was so realistic and believable. If you didn't know that the people involved in the movie were actors, it would be very easy to believe that this was something that was really happening through the view of the webcam that the story was taking place on. And one of the things that I really liked about Searching was, in addition to the fact that it was very realistic, it also had this element of suspense and the dread factor because this guy's daughter was missing. Yet, even though it got to a certain level of the suspense and it played out in a very typical sort of narrative with regard to the intro, then you've got the thing that sets events in motion, and then you've got the middle, and then you've got this climactic end. It's followed that pattern, but the way that it followed the pattern felt very rooted and grounded in reality. And so that was one of the things I really liked about that movie. And I went into this film thinking that I would probably enjoy this as well. And I did. There are a few things that separate this one from the first one. I'm going to start off with the things that I really liked about it. Number one, I liked the touching aspect of the relationship between the daughter and the mother. The movie starts off with home videos. There's something is being done with some files on the computer. A lot of these things that are shown in the beginning are kind of a clue as to what might really be going on, that's revealed at the end of the film. So pay attention to stuff like that. But it does set up this story about this daughter who has lost her father to cancer, and the relationship she has with her mother is kind of strained because she's at that age. And in a sense, this follows a very similar sort of foundation that they've laid down that Searching started off with, which was the father and the daughter, and they had lost the mother/wife to cancer. So it was almost identical to the setup of the first movie. But this one takes a bit of a turn in that instead of the father looking for the missing daughter, it's the daughter looking for a missing mother. So, not super different, but in various ways, this film does diverge from the first one, though it keeps those elements of the touching aspects of it, like loss and grief and a child without one of their parents. There were a couple of times that it was very emotional to me. I got teared up a bit because of some of the things that it was showing and the emotion on the daughter's face and how much she missed her father and things like that, and the strain that it was causing on the relationship, with the mother. And you could tell that they definitely had these issues that were persistent in their relationship. And then, of course, as events carry on and the mother goes missing and the daughter is caught up in trying to figure out what the heck has happened to her mother. So I just enjoyed all of that. I enjoyed the mystery. I enjoyed seeing the daughter uncover things bit by bit. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about this film, which is very similar to what I enjoyed about Searching, was how it shows you realistic sort of tech issues that you have to deal with, which I thought, all of us can identify with that. Another thing that both of these movies did pretty well was peeling back little by little these different layers and clues being revealed to you that you didn't really maybe pay much attention to in the beginning. And then how what seemed to start off with such an impossible situation, as the story progresses, you see how things start to fit together. Sorry. That's my alarm for reminding myself to film the movie review. I'm ahead of the alarm. As the characters are piecing together the information from what started off as something that seemed impossible, that as this story progresses, you start to, more and more of reality and the truth starts to make itself known, and the possibilities of being able to figure things out start to show themselves from what started off as something impossible. Like, how are you going to locate a missing parent that's out of country? That sort of thing. And then to the end where truth is revealed. And I found that whole progression of the storyline very interesting, and the reality of the tech-based stuff that was going on, and the communication and the messaging apps and the different services available. At some point, the daughter employs services of something like TaskRabbit, and then also the equivalent of that down in Colombia, where her mother and boyfriend had gone to on the trip. I thought that was really cool how those sorts of things came into play, and of course, through the TaskRabbit sort of equivalent down in Colombia, that was where the actor Joaquim, oh my gosh, that dude, we all know who he is. That's how he came into play. And I really liked the dynamic between him and the girl, and felt like they played off each other very well. He was pretty funny in here. He was also a very likable character in here. The daughter, she's not really a very likable character, especially in the beginning, because of the relationship that she has with her mother. She comes across as very bratty and not very appreciative, and just a little turd. I mean, I didn't care too much for her in the beginning. I understood where she was coming from in some ways, but her attitude toward her mother I thought was really ugly, and I didn't care for her in the beginning. And kind of similar to how I didn't care for the daughter in the beginning of Searching. She came across as very standoffish. I didn't like the lack of truthfulness that she had with her dad, but as the story progressed, you understood more as to where she was coming from, why she didn't say certain things to her dad, because she was still very much in the grieving process. So it's kind of similar with this character, except she didn't really have, to me, as understandable of a reason to be the way she was with her mother as the daughter in the first movie. I mean, as you watch this, maybe you'll see what I'm talking about. But as the story progressed, you start to really sympathize with this daughter. She's very scared. She is very, very remorseful about the way she had treated her mother, because now she realizes, oh my gosh, now I might not have any parents at all alive anymore. And I think the moment when I started to really feel sorry for her was a scene where she's waiting in the airport for her mother to arrive. She's supposed to be there to pick them up, and she's just standing there with this sign. She's just standing there waiting and waiting and waiting, and it's showing the passage of time. And I was like, oh man, I felt really sad for her when that particular thing happened. And that was, kind of when my sentiments started to change. And I think that's sort of a natural progression of the way her character is supposed to come across to you. So I don't think she was supposed to be started off as necessarily 100% sympathetic. It's kind of like realistic. A lot of parents have strained relationships with their children, and there's this antagonistic sort of attitude that can happen a lot of times. So I felt like in a lot of ways it was very realistic what we were seeing, even though at the same time it annoyed me because I thought she was being a little brat. But in general, I liked all of those things about it. I think I've gone through everything. Oh, something else I meant to mention. At the very beginning and throughout different parts of the movie, we see this scene from, I think it was like 2008. It was a home video of the daughter and her father. And the little girl who played the younger version of her, she looks so much like her. This little girl right here, I thought, is that an actual real home video of her when she was a child? Because I was like, this kid looks so much like her. But then as it progresses, you realize, no, it's just an actor who happens to favor the main, a more adult version of the same character. So I was impressed with that. So I think I've gone over all of the things that I appreciated about this film. Now I'm going to start to delve into territory that I had a bit of a problem with, or things that I felt like weren't really explained very well. Some of these things might be my fault. Maybe there was something that I missed throughout the course of all of the screens we see and all of the different things that's going on with the keyboard and the different apps and the notes and the Google and the WhatsApp and the chat, the FaceTime and all that. There was at some point where the character, where she gets into someone's email, and then it shows her getting into that same person's, like other things, like let's say maybe a dating app site or whatever. It never explained how she was able to acquire the password to get into this place, unless I'm totally missing something. Now, I thought that maybe you were supposed to just assume that because she had access to the email, that she then must have off screen gone and done the whole forgot password and reset password sort of thing. But it was after these parts that it showed her doing that forgot password, reset password on other applications or other websites. So I was a bit confused about that. I was like, wait, I'm missing something. So I don't know. Maybe it did show her doing that, but I don't remember. It just showed her logging in, showed her typing the password. And I was like, how did she get the password? I don't understand. But that might just have been an editing thing. Maybe they cut it out, though. If that was the case, I think that was a mistake. I think that's something that they should have shown from the very, very beginning, unless I just missed it. They showed it and I missed it. But it was something that I wrote down. Another thing that kind of, I wouldn't say lost me, but I'll just say that when the third act happened, when this big twist and reveal happened. So, in the first one, there was this twist that occurred. Same thing happens with this. Not everything is as it seems, just like in the first one. But when the twist of this happened, it felt like it was so ridiculous and over the top that it really stretched the limits of my ability to buy into this story. It felt like they took maybe a bigger budget that they were given for this sequel than what they had in the first one. Now, I understand that the first one was filmed on a budget less than $1 million, and it ended up making more than $70-some million. That's excellent. That's so cool. I feel like this one was probably bigger budget, and because it was bigger budget, or because the first one was such a success, I feel like they went into this wanting to Hollywood it up a bit more. So the third act felt more like some crazy Hollywood movie, and it felt like it was really over the top. The plot was way out there, and when you start to examine it a bit more, you start to wonder, now how in the world, the chances of this happening so that this can happen and these two things can happen, it's so, I did not buy it. And I feel like that's the weakness in this movie. The fact that it really stretches, it really, the credibility factor wears thin, as opposed to in the first movie, it felt very grounded in reality. This one, by the time things start really going and danger is amping up and it feels like, oh gosh, we're just watching some regular old basic Hollywood movie. This doesn't even feel like anything that's organic and genuine and realistic like the first one felt. And so that to me is the biggest con. While there are some moments that do feel very genuine and realistic, as a whole, This film and the actors involved in this film, especially the girl who plays the main character, you could tell for the most part that it was an act. Like, it didn't feel it. Not that she did a bad job at the acting, not that anybody in here did a bad job at the acting, but it just didn't feel as genuine as the first one. It felt like we were watching actors. Whereas in the first one, while I knew the main actor involved and the other characters involved, it felt like we were watching real people, if that makes any sense. And so because of that, I feel like that was a detriment to this movie and just the whole sort of twisty thing that happened. And it was just like, I was rolling my eyes when certain things are going on. I'm like, oh, okay. And when this big twist happened, this big reveal that happened at the end, I have to say I wasn't surprised, because I sort of kind of started to suspect certain things, especially when they were showing scenes of fuzzy, grainy images. And I was like, that person kind of looks like they could be, but it wasn't anything that sort of cemented itself fully. However, by the time this thing was revealed, I was like, yeah, I kind of thought so. So in that sense, this didn't really pack the big surprise punch that maybe they were going for. And that's unfortunate, because this movie has quite a bit going for it. And it's not a bad movie. I don't want you guys to think that this is just terrible, but I feel like in a lot of ways it just does not compare as favorably or does not stack up to the same level of quality as the first one did. It's kind of a hard balance to find, you know, to make this fiction movie and have it to be represented as realistic. That's one of the reasons that I don't really like home video type of films or webcam type of films, because I know it's not real. I go into it knowing it's not real. And to see these people trying to pretend that it's real, it kind of takes me out of the moment, even though I go to see a movie and I know it's not real and I know that people are pretending it's real. But it's like you have this weird added layer of pretend realism when you're talking about webcams or home videos or phone apps and stuff like that. So it's really hard to convince me, to make me buy into certain things when it comes to this genre of filmmaking. And Searching excelled at that. Searching convinced me. Searching was so good. This one, while it was good, I enjoyed it. It didn't convince me to the level that Searching did. And it also just went to crazy, far out, ridiculous places that I feel kind of detracted from this movie's potential to measure up to the excellence that was the first film. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the movie Missing. Something else that I was going to mention that I noticed, I went looking it up. It's not made by the same director, but it's made by the same team as the people that worked on the first one. The director of the first one, he was involved in the writing of Searching. He and one other guy wrote Searching, but he and 3 other guys wrote Missing. And I feel like that was probably too many cooks in the kitchen. Maybe they should have kept it simple. And in doing so, that would have elevated this movie to the same quality of Searching. It's unfortunate, but whatever, you know, it's okay. This is definitely not a movie I regret watching, and this is not a movie that I would try to discourage anyone from watching. I think you'll probably enjoy it. Maybe you'll completely disagree with me as to the different cons that I detected as I was watching it. But I'm curious to find out. I thought I heard that they're going to do another one, a third one. I don't know if they're going to continue with this with this entire thing. I'm not really sure. You know, how can you make something different? I feel like this one, in a lot of ways, copied the same template as the first one. If you're going to have a third one, it's going to copy the same template as the first two. After a while, it's going to get a bit old, and I feel like with each story they're going to try to get progressively more and more intense, and I'm not sure how well that will they'll be able to carry that off. Anyway, from what I understand, there's some sort of element that ties these first movies together. I didn't catch it, but it has something to do with like aliens, I thought. Yeah, it flew right over my head. I went looking and I was like, well, I completely missed these references in the first 2 films. But if that's something you go in looking for, I guess you'll find it. Anyway, that's all I've got to say about this. I've gone over all my notes, so I don't think I have anything else. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up because I have things I need to get to. All right, you guys. Bye.